Good evening, friends. I'm Dr. Ed Tick. I'm a member of our board and our lecturer for our association. And I'm pleased to and proud to introduce to you our speaker for tonight, my colleague and my friend, Erica Lorentz. Before I jump into Erica's fascinating and important biography, I just quickly want to invite everybody who might be interested to, that I will be lecturing to the Connecticut Jung Association a week from tomorrow, Saturday morning, on the future of ancient healing, exploring the roots of therapy and medicine in ancient Greece. So if you're interested, please join me there. But tonight we focus on Erica and her important contributions. Erica is a Jungian analyst with over 4 decades of clinical experience, and she's practiced individual, couple, and group work, and lecturing, teaching, educating, supervising. Erica does not rely on traditional mental health concepts. Rather, Erica is deeply in love with Jungian depth work. And she explores what dreams and what emotions and what our physical symptoms and what the imagination all seek to express. Erica has a special focus on the body and how it reveals. And she's working hard to explore the relation of the body to archetypal work and make that contribution to the Jungian field, which is wonderful, but rather neglect has been less concentrated on body work. So Erica's bringing all of them together in her practice and writing on it and researching it. She has also been teaching on this, so you can hear some of Erica's work on several webinars that she gave in her training. So those you can access on the Jung Platform, and easy to get to by just clicking on Erica's blog and going to the links. I love how Erica incorporates mythopoetic and shadow processes all as they are embodied and as we really live them. And that's what she helps her people discover. She's been a hardworking and generous president of this Jung Association for many years. She loves this work. She loves bringing it to our community, and she really is given tirelessly, and we call it one of the thankless tasks. Thank you, Erica, for giving so much, so generously and tirelessly of yourself to this association and to the community so that we can share and spread these riches. So with great gratitude to you, Erica, I present you and our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Elric. Thank you, my board. So actually, can we have gallery view? Is that possible right now? Thank you. Gallery view for everybody. Whoops. There we go. Thank you. I'd like us to take a moment to close our eyes and give a moment of silence to what is happening to the people in Ukraine. It's a horrendous war that should never have started, and I feel it is the result of a madman. So I would like us all to just take a moment and send loving, healing energy to the people of Ukraine. Okay, so I'm going to light a candle as an opening to what we're going to be doing tonight, and put it back here with my Kuan Yin. So thank you for coming. It's going to be very interesting to give a talk about the body. You know, I prefer to do this in a big room where I can facilitate people going into imagination and body and movement and stuff. But there's also important things to say about the body, about this, about remembering the body and why did our body in our modern culture sink into the shadow, sink into the unconscious in our awareness and our connection to it, and to it, nature, and God, the cosmic realm, whatever you want to say. So, so I'm going to be talking, but I'm also going to be using film clips to help bring us sort of into an experience of what I'm talking about. So I'm hoping to balance that. So first, let's just close our eyes so we can arrive a little from our busy day, our busy week, the intense political and climate and everything that's going on in the world. So just close your eyes and take a breath. And notice your mind. Your mind doesn't stop. It's okay. It does its thing. But we don't have to pay attention to it all the time. So just notice it. And feel your eyes. Are you focusing hard? Are your eyes resting? You don't have to change anything. Just become who you are. Just notice. Feel your jaw. It's usually tight. Take a breath. Feel the air go up and down your throat, and feel your neck, especially the back of your neck. Shoulders, arms, hands, and fingers. Just notice. You don't have to feel anything in particular. You might not even feel them very much, but that's just what we're noticing. Where are we? Usually we're in our heads, so just notice your breathing. Just take some breaths and feel in the back, feel the ribs in the back moving. And the sides, just keep breathing. Notice if you breathe deeply or not. And the front. Feel your organs and your lower back. We're just coming into the present right now. There's nothing else to do. You don't have to go anywhere. Feel your sits bones and your pelvis. You're just sitting on the chair. That's all you have to do. And just breathe. In your thighs, your knees, your calves, ankles, feet on the floor or wherever, and your toes. It's just all your body, and most of the time we are not really in our body. Feel the air and the clothes on your skin. And we're just coming into the present through the body. And take a couple more deep breaths. And just slowly open your eyes. And I encourage you to just soften your eyes. They're going to be words, but I'll read them. So you can just soften your eyes and relax tonight. This is a time to relax. Okay. So I'm going to, this is being recorded and there will be sharing. So if you want to say something and you don't want it recorded, just say, I don't want it recorded, and Andy will pause. Okay. So I'm going to share. Let's see. Okay, good. all set. And here's, oops, the slideshow. Whoops, hold on. Good, okay. Okay, hold on, I have to do that, okay. Okay, this is one of my favorite quotes. A number of people of you have heard this almost every lecture I've given. I love it because it's a puzzle. The body is merely the visibility of the soul. The body is the visibility of the soul, the psyche, the soul and the psyche. And the soul is the psychological experience of the body. So it's really one and the same thing. And this is what I'm writing about. Oops. Uh-oh. Okay. Going forward on Zoom is different than when I'm just practicing. So one of the things that, as I've read Jung and worked with Jung over the years, I've found that there's some elements of the embodied soul. Jung really talked about the embodied soul. He was a very earthy guy. And the embodied soul is something that is woven throughout his theory of individuation. And I found it as I was working with it, that it's like a permaculture or an ecological system. And the main elements are the soul, the body and our senses, emotion and energy, imagination, and the subtle body, somatic unconscious. And these have to be tended to in various ways. We all have different connections with each one of them. Some of them are easy, some of them are difficult. And it's about the embodied mythopoetic process. So we need to tend our permaculture, but we don't want to mess with it. We don't want to disturb it too much. Here's a beautiful, I'm going to be showing wonderful images by Peter Birkhauser. Peter Birkhauser was a graphic artist in Switzerland. He was famous. And in 1942, he had a nightmare that just terrified him. And it sent him into analysis with Marie-Louise von Franz for the rest of his life. And he painted and drew his process. And this was a beautiful image, I think, of the feminine, the anima, the soul, and the birth of the psyche, the butterfly. So what is soul? Soul animates. If you look at people who have been horrendously traumatized, it's like you can't, their eyes are just in shock. And the soul is in there, but it's not shining out of their eyes. Or so it's that which animates. We can see the soul in people's eyes. We can see it in the body. Whoops, I'm sorry. Whoops. To learn how to do this. Okay. Being that has soul is living being. This is Jung. She, the soul, makes us believe incredible things, that life may be lived. To have soul is the whole adventure of life. The soul favors everything bodily, sensuous, and emotional. It's the seat of all psychic suffering and the dwelling place of all healing truths. Suffering and truth, healing truth, they go hand in hand. Heraclitus said, "You could not discover the limits of the soul, even if you traveled by every path in order to do so. So profound is its meaning." So the soul is not confined to the individual. It's a vast web of relationships connecting invisible fields of energy that run through all of us, through nature, through the entire universe, with the denser field of physical reality. This is a beautiful image by Alex Gray. He painted a lot of these paintings, sort of seeing the energy through the body into the world. It's like Indra's net, the Indian mythology of Indra's net, which we are all part of. So it goes through everything. Okay, so here's our first experience. Some of you have seen some of these things, some of these film clips, and each one of them, for me, I've watched these many times and they still really move me. So this is a Cirque du Soleil, it's Kidam. It's one of their early ones. And this is about a little girl's imagination and about her imagination about the soul and the feminine. So I want you to just close your eyes again, just breathe a little bit. You've heard some words, just let that be. They'll come back if you need them. Just take a couple of breaths. And then open your eyes, and I want you to see if you can just let this be. Don't analyze it, don't think about it, don't observe it, don't try to figure it out. When Jung started his journey, which he wrote down in the black books and then transcribed into the red book, he said he had a soliloquy with his soul, and he said, my soul, where are you? I've lost you. Please come back. I've analyzed you, I've observed you, I've thought about you, but I need you. And the soul was his guide through much of his journey. So let's see. I just want you to see what you feel. You might not feel anything. That's fine. So just relax and enjoy. Okay. Can we come out of back to gallery view again? Stop sharing. Okay. There we are. Okay, that's a powerful piece, isn't it? It's just pretty startling. I love finding these film clips. So I would so appreciate it if anybody would be willing to turn on your video so we could feel more like we're together in a group. So I just want to turn it over to you and see if we can not interpret it. There's all kinds of symbolism we could see in this piece. But what happened? Was it shocking? Was it interesting? It makes me cry sometimes. It just really gets me. So in terms of what you're experiencing in your emotions and your soul as you watch this, who would like to say something? So you can put up your Zoom hand, or if you can't, just go wave at Andy, and he'll call on you.
Go ahead, George.
Can I be heard? Good. Just this force that animates and enlivens and pulls and stretches, but turns us somehow into our I wrote in my notes, exalted self.
Okay. Yeah.
Truth is better, but just those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, it hits you, doesn't it? It really, it's not just a thinking thing. It really brings that up, doesn't it? Yeah. Thank you. Who else would like to say something?
Go ahead, Sharon. Sharon, you're muted. There you go.
Am I okay now? Yeah. I was taken by the appreciation of the amount of strength that her performance required, and how she was completely with herself during the performance. And just awe at how beautiful it looked, and how beautiful her body looked, and how she used her body.
Yeah.
The most interesting performance, physical performance that I've seen in a very long time. It really idealizes the use of dance, I guess, would be correlation. It reminded me of the dance on ribbons. On ribbons rather than with ribbons.
Yeah, you said awe, that strength and that vitality that she had to have. Whoa. Yeah.
And the concentration of abiding your mind and having your body do what you want it to do and be totally in the moment.
Yes.
I thought she was pretty much totally in the moment.
And when I watch it, I get into the moment with her because it's so compelling. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead, Susan. You can unmute.
I was struck by how I was sort of monitoring my own thought process, watching this, and aware not until afterwards that I was holding my breath through the whole thing, afraid that she was going to fall. And then but what I was thinking was how most of us don't look like that. And certainly most of us don't have that kind of strength. And I'm not even sure even the Olympians do. And I was thinking how extraordinary this is, and monitoring my own thoughts about this isn't even possible. Is this really possible? Is this what a body with sufficient nutrition and training and whatever else goes into that? It was totally, makes me think about, I can't remember who wrote it. I want to say Nancy Qualls Corbett, but maybe not, wrote a book called Acrobats of the Gods. Talks about how during a performance, the actors or dancers or whoever they are possessed by some divine energy, and you can see it when you see it on stage. And
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking about when I was watching her. It's like,
Yeah.
what is that? And how did the rest of it, how do the rest of us get there?
Yeah, what is that? Wow, that's soul. You know, she was totally in it, right? Yeah, thank you.
Paul, I think you had your hand raised.
I
Go
do.
ahead.
I was taken emotionally. I was absolutely broken down in tears.
Mm.
I felt myself descending. I guess over the last few weeks, I didn't realize how much I've been torn apart, and I just stopped. I wasn't thinking. I was just feeling and floating and sinking, and feeling like I was connecting with all parts of myself that I didn't know, I didn't remember, or something like that. It was really difficult, but it was really. I'm shocked because I think everything in my life. I'm a great thinker, and this took me away from my thoughts. I'm very cognitive and scientific and all that kind of stuff, but. And I felt that I was just connecting with a lot of parts of myself, and I felt happy, and also I was sad that I had lost them somehow. So that's my reaction. It was just wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
If you would mute, Paul, thank you. Elric, and then M.A. after Elric.
Thank you, Andy. I just wanted to say that I actually saw that performance in person.
Mm.
I was lucky enough, and it was one of the most. It was a peak experience in my life. Some of the things that people have said are very familiar to me in terms of the way I tried to describe it, and I wept.
Mm.
I wept openly, sitting watching these performances. I do want to say that anybody, if you ever have a chance to see Cirque du Soleil, it is the greatest show on earth, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's sublime and beyond words, as that performance was.
Yeah,
Thank
sublime
you.
is a really wonderful word for it, isn't it? Sublime. It's the soul.
Yeah.
It
Thank you for sharing that,
us,
Erica.
Yeah, it takes us to a transcendental place. Transcendent place, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Eric.
M.A. followed by Allison. Go ahead, M.A. You can unmute. There you go.
Am I unmuted? Okay, thank you. My first reaction watching her was, oh my goodness, this is so erotic.
Mm.
And I kind of shocked myself with that. And, you know, the good girl that learned all these lessons was on my shoulder. But I moved through that when I could see her as soul, that she was an image of soul. And one of the thoughts I had was skin was no obstacle.
Mm.
When I watched her, she wasn't hindered in any way by her skin. And then for a moment, with one of the moves she made, I could feel that move within me.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't throughout the whole thing, but I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then it didn't stay, you know, but yeah, it was really, I appreciated that. Thank you.
Yeah, and the soul loves everything bodily and sensuous. Now, is sensuous sexuality? I hope so, but it's more than that. It's just our sense of ourself in the deepest soulful way. Thank you.
Allison, go ahead, and then Joe.
Yeah, I'm also super in awe the performance. At one point, I see her only has 1 feet wrapped by the rope, and she's still able to just dance and flow. Just this incredible presence and competency, and I really don't have words, but what struck me the most was when there was kind of like a thunder sound, and then she fell almost, and my heart just dropped, and there was this such great sadness for that. And I also watched the little girl. It seems like when she was a little girl, she was playful, and then she was looking up to this feminine and watching in awe. But then at the end, it was so sad that she's just, her face didn't have any facial expressions. She was just numb as the nuns, and then they just took the dancer away. I was so mad. I was very
That's an interesting story about the end, because I have a different story, but that's, it's so fascinating that we have all these different stories that go on.
Mm-hmm.
Relate to something in ourselves. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Joe, you're gonna.
Joe, and then Laura Pravitz after Joe.
And then I think we need to go on, unfortunately. Joe?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
So the word you used, Erica, was sensuous sexuality. That was a strong impression that I had. It called very much feminineness. I don't know how to say this, whether it's anima, but it evokes something in me of my attraction to women in general. That it was something very seductive about all the ways the feminine aspect could change and sort of be serpentine and evoking like Kundalini energy. There was all such this manifestation of the feminine, like a siren, a call, a call to the experience the essence of, for me, the call of woman and femininity, and that the power of it, and allure. So that's maybe too personal evocation, but that's what came out to me.
And you're feminine. All of our feminine, right? We all have feminine. We all have yin. So yeah. Thank you, Joe. Yeah.
Laura?
Well, I felt it was a journey of transformation and becoming and sort of metamorphosis, and longing in that direction and process. And
what did you feel, Laura?
That's what I felt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you felt that as you went with it.
Yeah, I felt longing.
Yeah,
I felt
great.
Longing, and the heroism of that journey.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go on. We could keep talking, which would be lovely, but let's go on. Okay. Oops. Andy, help me out here.
Yeah, this is the Zoom screen. You want to bring the PowerPoint to the front. Click on P at the bottom. PowerPoint.
Okay. I'm not used to going back and forth. Okay, there we go. Okay. It is rewarding, this is Jung, it is rewarding to watch patiently the silent happenings in the soul. And the most and best happens when it is not regulated from outside or above. I have such great respect for what happens in the human soul that I would be afraid of disturbing and distorting the silent operations of nature by clumsy interference. So now we're going to move on to the body. So there's this ecological system. So we have the soul and the body. Jung says individuation can only take place. Individuation means coming into our true self. It doesn't mean perfection or anything. If we return to the body, to our earth, only then does it become true. Individuation can take place when it is realized, when somebody is there that notices it. We have to feel it. Otherwise, it is the eternal melody of the wind in the desert. So let's go. So I'm going to talk about sensual authority. Now, this doesn't have to do with sexuality. This is about our sensing into our deepest place in our body and our cells and our feelings. And so now if we're having sex, we want to have our sensuality with us because that's very important. But it means to come to our senses, to feel whatever we feel. We might feel that we don't feel. That's a feeling. We want to tune deeply into our instinct, to the gut brain. The gut has more neuroreceptors than any other place in the body. And then there's the heart. And the last is the brain. The brain is an organ. So we want to tune deeply into our instinct. When I was living in New York, I made the stupid mistake of going down a residential street at night, and I heard footsteps behind me. And this man grabbed my arm and he had a hand in his pocket. And he said, what I thought he said was, I have a gun. And I was carrying an empty suitcase. And my instinct just took over. And I whacked him with the suitcase. I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, fuck you. And he backed off. And thank God a car came and he ran one way and I ran the other way. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days, but my instinct saved me. We need to trust our intuition. Now, Jung says intuition is 50% wrong and 50% right. So we need to, what I do is I sit with it. And if it keeps speaking to me, then I go, okay, I hear you. We need to learn how to experience our energy and emotion. Energy is emotion. Emotion is energy. And our heart brain, when Jung went to the Pueblo Indians, the Indians said to him, white man is crazy. And Jung said, what do you mean? And he said, white man thinks with his head, not his heart. We think with our heart. We need to find our own rhythm. Modern life is so fast. It's so overstimulating. And how do we slow down? We might be in a fast rhythm, but our rhythms modulate. So we really need to begin to listen to our own rhythm and take time to find that. With the honey of the senses and the joy of life, the healing and the whole-making medicine is combined with spiritual and conjugal love. The whole of conscious man is surrendered to the biggest self, that part that guides us and creates our full total personality, the new center of the personality. Now, when Jung talks about conjugal love, he's not talking necessarily about relationship. He's talking about our inner sacred marriage, which is what we need to do at this time of the modern world. We need to find our healthy masculine and feminine and bring them together in a sacred marriage. And this is a beautiful image of that by William Blake. Okay, we're going to have another experience. So this is a sweet little film. It's called Shall We Dance? Some of you might have seen this clip that I've done. And it's about a midlife crisis. Richard Gere, I can't remember what his name was in the movie, but he's having a midlife crisis. But instead of going off and having affairs and buying a red sports car, he wants to dance. So he goes to a dance studio. And Jennifer Lopez is a teacher, and she has been an international ballroom dance contestant, and her partner dumped her. So she comes back to her home studio and she's going through a transformation. So this is about their connection around dance, their healthy, creative connection around dance. So I want you to just sit in your chair and relax, close your eyes for a minute, and just take a couple of breaths. See if we can let the words go and just be here right now. Just take a breath and open your eyes and just soften. Let it come in. Just let it come in. Don't see if you can not think about it. Whoops. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Where is it? There it is. Oh.
Then I started dancing and I found I really liked it. It made me happy.
Yes, it shows. I mean, I feel excited about something for the first time in such a long time. Aren't you?
Excited?
About tomorrow, the competition.
No, I'm petrified. I'm gonna forget everything. I won't be able to put one foot in front of the other. I'll make a mess of the whole thing.
No.
I know, I'm just...
Give me 1 hour. Leave it. Leave the light. Don't say anything, and don't think. And don't move unless you feel it.
Hay milonga de amor, hay temblor de gotán.
Be this alive. Be this alive tomorrow. Thank you.
stop share again. Let's come back. Okay, how about that one? That was fun. A lot of sensuality in that. If you do the tango, it's probably about like making love, you know? It's very powerful. So are there some hands up already?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kate, and then Dory.
No, sorry, I should have, it was the previous film. So I don't have anything to say about this, except it was lovely to watch.
You can use the same button to take the hand down. Dory, go ahead.
Hi, I'm a dancer, so I could really feel where they were coming from. I'm pretty sure it was Jung who said, learn everything and then forget it. And so for me, it takes a while to learn all the steps, but then you go home, you do them in your sleep. And then when you're performing, all you have to do is feel it, and the steps come naturally, and you don't have to think about it. And if you're feeling it, it comes across, and the audience feels it too. And I think I don't do ballroom, but it's yeah. First you learn the steps, and then you forget them, and then you feel them. So yeah.
And that's important, isn't it? Because if you're just trying to do the steps,
forget it.
Energy. There's no sensual authority.
Right.
There's no
people don't
emotion.
feel it. Your audience doesn't feel it,
Right.
and you forget your steps.
Yeah. Right.
You end up doing the wrong thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What else did people feel? How did this affect you?
Paul, go ahead.
Yes, I have only one word. It was hot. That's it. And it was just, I don't know if I was the man dancing with the woman, if I was the woman and the man. I was both of them. I just thought that I thought he was gorgeous. I thought she was beautiful. I just felt like I was both of them. I loved it. It was hot. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, she was teaching him about his sensual authority, wasn't she? She was teaching him to tune in. That was the whole point. It's not that they were going to make love. She was teaching him how to really honor his feminine and masculine. So what else did people feel?
Susan,
can you? Thank you.
It was an incredible experience for me of surrender. And I think it's a paradox with the idea of sensual authority, and what gives you authority is to surrender.
Right.
And it's some level way down deep in my gut. That was a very scary thing. He crossed over some line. He got out of his head and into his body, and something else took over. And how does that even happen?
I know it. Isn't it amazing? We hope we have some of those moments in our lives, don't we? Yeah. Okay.
Deborah?
Deborah, can you put your, thank you. You're
Deborah,
muted.
you're muted.
I was noticing that I was having a layered response, that there were simultaneous responses. One was to the context, the story. And I really agree with everything that was said, except that I felt the container of it. I felt very clearly the discipline, that nothing was going to happen that was inappropriate, and that there was this deep containment going on. And the other way that struck me was that I was thinking about Richard Gere and his early movies and the trouble that Diane Lane and Deborah Winger and other early actresses had with his narcissism and inappropriateness. I don't mean to diagnose him, I just mean the way they described the way he used sexual scenes and stuff. And then I think about this unfathered guy meeting the Dalai Lama and how he changed and became a father. And so I had this simultaneous story, these, not stories, really the experience of watching someone open another door into a deeper life and realizing that had also happened to him, or projecting that had also happened to him. And projection was a very important experience for me in both of them. That in the first one, I can have so much anger, or I did have anger watching those first minutes in the first film because of all the projection that she is intentionally inviting and holding, and then watching her contain that, or contain herself in the face of it and surrender to all these different layers. And all I could think about was the title, The Time That Falling Bodies Take to Light, and watching her fall and fall and fall and become almost a Christ figure. And so I've been thinking a lot about projection through both of them, the power of it and the power of inviting it ritually and using it. Anyway,
Yeah,
thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, and how when we are in the presence of that, how it moves us, so that's the important thing. Anybody else? How did this affect you? How did it?
Sharon? Your mic, Sharon. You're muted.
Okay. I was first observing how there was, at first they were a little bit stiff with each other, and then they really got into it, so to speak, as time went on during this film. And I recognized that in order to be able to dance the tango, you have to let your soul go. You have to, or not go, but get into it and allow it to happen. And if you don't let it happen, it's not going to happen. But as the film progressed, you could see that they were in touch with their body and allowing it to do what it can without hindrance. So I thought that was my thoughts while I was watching it. It was quite beautiful. And
It's interesting because this is a very, the tango is very sexual. It's very sensual and it's very sexual.
It is.
And it's interesting how we're tending to get in our head a little bit about it with this scene as opposed to the first one. Just notice that. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
There was this general progression that he let go of. She was on top of her body, but he didn't let go of his body until midway through the.
Right, that's what she was teaching him, wasn't she?
She was forcing him, or she was tantalizing him, enticing him into letting his emotions and his body go.
Right.
And not judge it. Judge it. Neither one were judging what they were doing. So it may appear as being sexual, or and it is sexual, but so what?
Yeah, so what? Good. We need that in a healthy way. Like you said,
and that's what he needed. He needed to let go and not get all wound up in all the technicalities.
Thank you.
And then the two of them moved together beautifully. It was such a pleasure to watch two adults be together in the dance.
It's a pleasure. That's right.
Without reservation, without anger, without all the negative emotions. Just allow your body to do something with another human being.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Susanna, let's have Susanna say something. Can you show there you are.
Hi.
Hi.
I felt the sense of quiet ecstasy when I was watching them. I am a ballroom dancer and I danced the part of the follower. And when I've come to realize when I dance that I'm not actually dancing with a partner, I'm dancing with myself. And when you dance with yourself, when you're doing that to such an extent, I can't really describe it, but if you're really able to do that, you could even, as the follower, lead your partner. And I think I saw that was what Jennifer Lopez's character was doing. She was so connected to herself that Richard Gere just had to follow along. And I feel really lucky saying this, but I felt this quiet ecstasy because just knowing I've come to a point in my life where I feel that I'm able to make love to everything, so to speak, even though that sounds strange. And watching the film, I just felt excited to keep on making love to life.
Yeah, thank you, Susanna. We're going to have to stop now because we need to move on. So let's go back to screen share. And, let's see. So Andy, where do I go?
If you click on that screen, it'll give you the controls.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, next. It is not liberation from the unconscious that the dancer seeks, but direct contact with the archetypal world in which the limiting confines of our ego adaptation are overcome. That's interesting, isn't it? So we're going to talk about the left and the right brain. I talk about this all the time. Ian McGilchrist is brilliant. And he was a philosopher, then he studied literature. Then he decided he wanted to learn how people work. So he became a neuroscientist, and he studied people who had brain injury and what happened, how that affected them. And he really got to understand the difference of the right brain and the left brain and how they perceive and how they work. So, and for him, the right brain should be the master. That's our foundation. So keep that in mind as we go through this. This comes on at birth. It's the brainstem, which is our instincts, and it's the limbic system, which is our emotion, and it's empathy and intersubjectivity. Then it processes emotion, particularly sadness. When, I don't know about you, but when I have a good cry all the way through my body, I'm back in my body, I'm in my soul. And it's embodied experience in the whole body. Nonverbal communication. Only 55% of communication is body. 37% is voice. Only 7% of our communication is words. So we're constantly, even though we don't know it, we're constantly tuning in. It's about context, relationship, gestalt, complexity. It's holistic. It holds possibilities without interpretation. It just sees. It's intuitive, paradox. It mediates, it's patient, long time, wisdom. It prefers uncertainty, the symbolic, novelty. And it attracted to individual uniqueness, each one of us. Now, if we look at this has some things that we've been talking about the soul, doesn't it? And the feminine and these kinds of things. So the left brain should be the emissary. As McGilchrist says, the right brain should be what we really trust, and the left brain is the laptop. Well, how we learn about that. So it comes on about 18 months. It's about thinking, the frontal cortex, separation. What do I need? Detachment. It sets emotions aside, which can be very important. Denial, splits the body and mind. Anger, aggression, the predator. Explicit language, describable language. Direct, focused attention, analyzes, organizes, categorizes. It's hierarchical. It abstracts, conceptualizes, manipulates. It wants control and it wants resolution. It's about fixed ideas, known, discernible, literal, local attention. It can't comprehend outside of its own known explicit worldview. This is really important because this is where we have come in our Western scientific rationalism. We have made the emissary the master. And so we're in trouble here. Albert Einstein was a very right brain scientist. Of course, he could figure it all out with his left brain. We need them both. He says the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Ian McGilchrist says the right hemisphere is more creative. It goes straight to the things that are most important. We come to certain ideas intuitively. These tend to be the most important ones. Now, Jung was really trying to bring back in a right hemisphere perspective in his psychology and his spirituality. Here's Birkhauser again. And we see in here in his process, he's painting his process. We see this split in him, this right-left split. And he says it's the world's wound. Now, this was made in 1949. So that was after World War II, which is kind of interesting in itself. So what happened? So in the beginning, there were matrilineal cultures. We know that from archaeology. In fact, we go back 800,000 years. And 500,000 BC was the zenith of these matrilineal cultures. They were nature goddess worshiping. They were agricultural, sedentary, egalitarian, and peaceful, relatively speaking. They were organizing social principle was clan kinship, and communal. I think some people are wanting to move more towards this. And the king was conferred his power by the elder women and the priestesses. He had to show them that he could handle the feminine, his own feminine and the feminine, including the dark feminine. Okay. So what happened? About 5,000 BC in the Russian steppes in the Arabian desert is where the horse was domesticated. And the horse came with a whole different level of the ability to travel and conquer. So these became, I'm not sure why, but these became sky god worshiping, dominated by powerful male and the male priesthood. They were stratified and hierarchical. They wanted territory and they brought weapons. And they destroyed and dominated. They came into old Europe, Lithuania, old Europe, that area. And there was a big diaspora. And the kingship was no longer conferred by the women. The women were not involved in anything. And in order to keep power, they had to have land. They had to make sure their land and their wealth was passed down and their power to their sons. So this began a shift of relationship towards women. The cyclical lunar imagery of the goddess culture was either gradually replaced by predominantly male deities in solar mythology or fused with them in an often uneasy union that is later transmitted to later Greek and Celtic cultures. No longer was there a continuous holistic cosmic unity. No longer was nature sentient. The relationship between humans, the goddess, the world soul was being severed. Where sacred temples were shattered or taken over, sensual authority began to become suspect. And it became harder and harder for us to tune into the cosmic, spiritual, divine language and energy. This is a revelation by a Seneca Oneida grandmother. There have been several worlds, and in the fourth world, the greatest division took place when humans created a god and placed him as a male deity somewhere out in the clouds. I love that image, out in the clouds. This created the greatest separation between humankind and the great mystery. But this needed to happen in the history. There were important lessons to be learned, and I pray that we've learned these lessons. So indigenous cultures in the world, they hold this place in the mythology and the cultures of the world. So we get to Greece. And so the left brain is slowly becoming more prominent in how we view and perceive and interact with the world. Now, Plato was the father of logic and metaphysics. And the earlier philosophers, they practiced the ancient Western mysteries. They went into the underworld, and that's where they got their information and their wisdom. Plato did that too, but he also decided that philosophy is about thinking. It's about the mind. The soul began to be divided into rational and irrational, became more of a hierarchy. The rational began to be primary. Instincts and emotions were more associated with the irrational. They were considered lower than thinking and mind. They began to be seen as inferior and unreliable, and there began to be a separation between body and mind. And nature and body began to be excluded from the sacred order. Now, in the Catholic Church, which began to really predominate as a patriarchy, this isn't about Christ, this is about the church fathers. In the myth of original sin, Augustine, the church father, I think it was in the 5th century, made it dogma that Eve was the problem. Eve was the one who caused us to have original sin. Llewellyn Vanley is a wonderful Sufi teacher. He says, we need to look at our fear of the feminine in the mirror of consciousness and see her darkest face. Her darkest face is usually because we're not listening to her. And if you have a nightmare, it's because whatever is in the nightmare wants to get your attention. Fear gets our attention. Only then will we cease to project onto women, Blacks, races, LGBTQ, whatever we're projecting on. Only then will we integrate rather than reject the powerful energies of the feminine. So here's Peter Berkhauser in 1954. He's going inside, he's going in his unconscious, and we see the dark feminine, mother in the background, the dark, dark feminine, and the snake, which is a symbol of the great goddess. And then we see his feminine, his anima, his connection to the feminine. Jung's myth taxes humanity with the birth of consciousness of the archetypal powers of the Great Mother. A moment of dissolution in her world makes the birth less painful and serves to guarantee the survival of us and our inner child, the child, and the species. So now let's talk a little bit about emotion. Emotion is an essential part of the ecological system. Emotion is the essential basis of our personality. Thought and action are symptoms of emotion. So this is very important because when we have weird thoughts or we have weird actions or we want to react, it's usually because we don't know what we're feeling well enough. Hillman says, whoops, okay. Emotion is the conscious or psychic form of universal energy. When this primal element is experienced from within, it is the matrix and source of all creativity, but it's also chaos. Emotion is the way energy appears to consciousness. So when I'm lying in bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm agitated and I can't go to sleep, I tune into my sensual authority. I tune deeper and deeper and deeper into my energy, the anxiety, the agitation. And then slowly it dawns on me what's going on. Or I have a flash and I understand what I'm upset about. And then I can go back to sleep. Whoops, where are you? There we go. Anxiety is the negative experience of primal energy without content, without quality, without personal form. Love is the experience of the same energy in the positive aspect. And I think in these two films, you see this love in a way of what they're doing. They're so loving. They're so into the experience. Okay, whoops, go back. Okay, we're going to have another amazing experience here to try to get out of our heads because that was a lot of thinking. So let's see if we can let go of the thinking and let go a little bit. So this is the story. This is the Beasts of the Southern Wild. If you haven't seen it, it's one of my favorite films. In the center is a little girl called Hush Puppy, and she and her community live in what's called the bathtub. And it's a very, very poor community, probably in New Orleans. That's where it was shot. And her father's dying. And before that, there's a teacher that talks to the kids about this prehistoric animal. It's called the Aurochs. And her father's dying. So she and her friends go off on a journey. They go off on a quest. And they get on a boat and they end up at the Elysian Fields, which is actually where the Greek heroes go when they die to be honored. And so here we're having something about the hero and the heroine. And the kids go in and it's a speakeasy. So there are all these women dancing with men and blah, blah. And the women just come around the girls and they pick them up. And there's this beautiful scene where they're all dancing. They're just dancing. And she goes and she finds the cook. And she wants to connect with the cook. And the cook takes her into the kitchen and makes her a meal of fried alligator. Now, alligator is a powerful, primitive animal. And the cook says, you got to be strong in your life. You got to be strong. And then there's a scene where Hush Puppy is is being picked up by this woman, and they're dancing, and all this beautiful maternal nurturing energy happens. And then she says, I got to go home to my own. So let's just come into our body a little bit after that story and breathe. See if you can let go of all the thoughts that are percolating. And just relax and open your eyes and see if you can soften your gaze and just allow this experience to come in.
You're my friend, kind of. I gotta take care of mine.
No crying here.
No crying.
Don't you cry.
When it all goes quiet behind my eyes, I see everything that made me flying around in invisible pieces. When I look too hard, it goes away. But when it all goes quiet, I see they are right here. I see that I'm a little piece of a big, big universe. And that makes things right. When I die, the scientists of the future, they're gonna find it all. They're gonna know. Once there was a hush puppy, and she lived with her daddy in the bathtub.
So let's hear from some people who haven't said anything. How was that for you?
Go ahead, Sarah.
For me, there was something really intimate about the two scenes when she was staring face to face with the beast and then staring face to face with her father back to back. There was something about her connecting with the two of those figures that just felt incredibly nurturing and loving, and it almost felt to me like in looking in the eyes of the beast that there was such a nurturing feeling and such a love that then she was able to go and look at her father in the same way at the time of his death. So there was just something about the closeness of this young girl with these, two, I don't know, greater forces or figures that just felt, really beautiful. As I said, nurturing was the word that came to mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Mm-hmm. Okay, anybody else?
Go ahead, Zachary.
there's a lot I would want to say about it, and I'm definitely gonna watch this whole movie.
It's amazing. It's not in slow motion either.
Yeah, I believe you. I'm sure they had lots of shots in between the frames I saw. But there's this when Hush Puppy and the male figure, I assume it's her father, were embracing, there was this silence in between that scene and then when she's holding the flame. It was the closest I came to just completely break down crying in a long time. And I was just completely, just like, my chest was just swelling in that moment. And yeah, it was something about that. I can't quite describe it. I'd like to watch the whole movie, but
Yeah, thank you, Zachary. Yeah,
powerful, yeah. Thank you.
it's a moving piece, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Anybody else?
Penny?
I love the place where she's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful film. When she is fleeing the beast and the moment comes when she turns and faces her fear. It's like many dreams people have when they're being pursued by whatever it is they're scared of, and they finally turn and face the beast, face their fear. And in that moment, you know, it turns into this great love and compassion. And there were many places in that little film clip where she's really talking about her soul's experience, you know, in the quiet behind her thoughts. And she's just the embodiment of a soulful little being facing a very difficult life in such purity. And her father clearly loved her. And like the beast, you know, he was both the beast, but I think that death and loss were the beast in the greatest sense. But beautiful, beautiful piece. Yeah.
Thank you, Penny.
Yeah.
Anybody else? How many people were moved by that piece? I was really moved. I cry every time I see that piece. Yeah, yeah. Ah, Dory.
Sorry. I really like the cinematography in all of the clips that we've seen. That really adds a lot to the meaning, the way it's edited, and it's one thing. There's a lot to say about this.
But let's. What did you feel? You know.
What did I feel? Oh,
yeah, what did you feel?
I was very impressed, I guess, with her power and her trust in herself. I didn't get that feeling until after she confronted the beast. Thinking back, maybe she had that in her. She had that spark already. She seemed to be the leader of the group of girls.
Let's not analyze it. Just okay. I mean, we could go analyze it for hours, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, what I felt. I mean, it was very moving. Yeah, and very powerful, and I could feel her strength, her power, her belief in herself.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dory. Thank you. Anybody else before we go on? Okay, let's go on. Share. Okay. There we go. Okay, we come back to Einstein again. This imagination is more important than knowledge. So remember back to the ecological system, imagination is part of the permaculture. For knowledge is limited to all we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all that ever will be to know and understand. Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. So we have to have soul, we have to have body and our central authority, we have to have our emotions and energy, and we have to have imagination. Jung wrote, the place of realization is neither mind or matter, but the intermediate realm of subtle reality, which can adequately only be expressed by the symbol, the orax, for example. The symbol is neither abstract nor concrete, rational nor irrational, real nor unreal. It is always both. The symbol is something that moves us and takes us to a place beyond words. So here we come to Birkhauser's Nightmare in 1942. And you see, he couldn't paint it till 1975. So towards the end of his life, really. So the nightmare was that he and his wife were supposed to go to a couple therapy on the top floor of a tower. So they walk in the first floor, and there is this creature, this fish, luminescent insect creature, which Peter Birkhauser said eventually was God, an image of God. Interesting image of God, huh? And he just recoils in horror. But his feminine, his wife, doesn't recoil. She goes up like with the beast. She goes up and she communes with the creature, and they commune. And then, interestingly enough, she gets up the steps of the tower easily, but he keeps falling and the step keeps falling off, and he gets all kinds of obstacles. And this was so powerful that it took him into analysis, and he did that for the rest of his life. The subtle body, which is that place where we go when we're having these moving experiences, is not a thing. It's not the physical body. It's not the energy system. It's a fabric of relations in between realm, a medium between soul and body that can be healthy or damaged. If somebody's very traumatized, this place in between is tricky. We have to help the person go in and come back and really come to be able to work with it. But it's that the Sufis call it the mundus imaginalis. It's between the archetypal or the divine and the human. It's where we go when we are struck by a beautiful sunset and it just opens our heart, or when we love somebody so much that it's just amazing, or when we have a mystical experience. The mystics, this is where they go. So it can be very simple or kind of a easy one, or it can really take you into a very rapturous, altered state place. Monica Wickman said, at the core of every living being is a light body, a star body, which is the astral spirit in us. Healing traditions of numerous cultures tap this knowing, and myths abound regarding the truth that the core light of being, that is the star body, is what helps one heal. So when we're working through our life, on our issues, on our depth of our unconscious, and we work on it on a certain level, then there's another level of healing that happens on the archetypal level. And Ed knows a lot about this. And where we have to go and we have to confront the aurochs, or we have to move into another state of being. And here is one of my favorite statues. It's Teresa of Avila. And the god Eros, who's stabbing her with the arrow because she's in love with God. She is so in love with God. Jung wrote, "The difference between most people and myself is that for me, the dividing walls are transparent. That is my peculiarity. Others find these walls so opaque that they see nothing behind them and therefore think nothing is there. To some extent, I perceive the processes going on in the background, and that gives me inner certainty. When we can connect with the unconscious, when we can feel into our interior world, and we connect with the archetypal and the whatever the divine is for us, that's where we feel inner certainty." Okay, so that's my talk. So we have a few minutes to share what that was like, what that journey was like. So what did people come out with? I'm glad we had some extra time. Yeah. Paul, you want to unmute?
Yes, I think when you use the word inner certainty, everything gelled for me. And that's why I was compelled to kind of just talk it out. I've always gone through my life not really knowing, okay, when I was very little, like that little girl who looked at the beast, I had courage. Over the years, I lost connections with whatever. So when you said the word inner certainty, but I always knew there was another world, except I walked away from it. Okay. So I went through the intellectual, scientific, the left brain, all that stuff. And over the years, so when you said, and I've always known the other part, but I was afraid. I felt discouraged. I felt I would be ridiculed. I felt like I wouldn't be accepted, all that stuff. So I think really, I guess I'm just thinking out loud, my whole process of individuation, coming back to my inner self. And when you said inner certainty, I think only in the last few years, I'm at this age of my life, I am not embarrassed anymore to claim that early part that I disconnected from. So your talk just, so thank you. The word inner certainty was the gift you gave me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we're taught in this culture, isn't it? Modern culture. We're taught to forget about that. We're taught to be embarrassed about our inner certainty, about our connection to our sensual authority, to our emotions and all that. So I think we have to come back to it, don't we?
And I think as a male, I really got caught into this whole toxic masculinity because I've done a lot of reading over the years and I bought into all of that. And that was what I thought I should be.
Right. And thank you for saying that, because men have been just as wounded as women.
And I do a lot of men's work and I do a lot of weekends over the years. And so one of the things that the men taught me, and I've taught them, but we taught each other, is to really accept the sensuous, the feminine, the beautiful piece that we all have as little boys.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Susan?
This has reconnected me with what I've always known is important, and it's so easily forgotten when I get caught up in daily life in different ways. Mm-hmm. And I've been particularly aware, and of course it's so easy to write it off to the pandemic, but I've been more stressed and more tired and more, what we all are. And it occurred to me that that's happening, at least in some measure, because of being disconnected from this realm of reality. Not because of anything else out there. It's the disconnection from this that makes me vulnerable and tired and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
It's very important. Good timing. for me.
Thank you. M.A.? What is your name, M.A.?
You know, when I signed up, I didn't realize that was how it was going to show on the screen. My name is Margaret, but I go by Peg.
Okay.
And so if I knew how to remedy that, I would, because I tune in frequently to the Massachusetts Jungian group. I live in St. Louis, so I'm a member of the Jungian Society here. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a scholar. I'm just interested in Jung.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I thought this presentation was so wonderful because you broke up all the left brain thoughts by adding something visual, and visual and symbol mean a lot to me. And so it just was great not to sit through an hour or so of just having to think about it that way. And then the takeaway I have from this is really going back and looking at myself, some of the old issues or complexes or whatever I want to call them. And hopefully I'll walk away from this and do a little journaling. And, you know, I understand it's never going to go away, but this has just made me think, oh, yeah, and here's where my beasts are. And I need to turn and face them. So thank you.
You're welcome. When I was working with Anita Green, who I worked with for a while, and I'd come in with a nightmare, she'd go, "Oh, good."
Yes.
So, okay. Anybody else? What did other people come away with or experience or whatever? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I can share. Lenore, hi. I just want to thank you for this. It was very relaxing, and I really felt a shift inside of me. I've been very caught up in my head this week and watching the news, and as we all probably have. But you know, this should really help me to relax and you know, just remember that I have a body. And I also wanted to ask you, Erica, what the name of that third film that we viewed.
Yeah, it was the Beasts of the Southern Wild. It's an amazing film, you know. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay, and thank you again. Yeah.
You're welcome. You know, it's hard to give a lecture on the body, so trying to bring it out a little bit. Yeah. Does anybody else want to say anything? Yeah, George.
Well, thank you, Erica. Really wonderful presentation. And I just felt the indomitable, I guess that's the right word, you know, force of soul in that girl, hush puppy, just had that, you know. She was not going to fade away, you know, in the face of the beast. I got so reassured that there is some force that I see it in my 12-year-old granddaughter. It just is an indomitable spirit. The kids and other kids today. I think they are embodying something. Greta Thunberg, you know, they're just so solid. So there's some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I have hope watching young, you know, the millennials and younger people, you know. Yeah, and it's like, how do we move that? You know, we all had that somewhere. Yeah. So, Anne, what would you like to say?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I am a follower, a studier, a student of the Black Madonnas, and I'm very interested in the dark feminine. And what I've got to see that last film. I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. And seeing the dark feminine, when I have dreams about Oprah, I know I'm dreaming about the Black Madonna, and so to see the dark feminine as that beautiful little child just went straight to my heart. I can't really say what the feeling was, but it was like, just took my breath away. Just the visuals that you gave us, they all just took my breath away. But that one of the dark feminine, and then seeing the quote by Monica Wickman, just, it was perfect for me. That's all. Thank you. Is anyone there?
Erica, you're muted.
There.
Allie, what would you like to say?
Well, this wasn't what I originally planned to say, but I just kind of want to name that I feel like being careful about, this is like a group full of mostly white people, and just what our imaginations about Black women and Black people can lead us to, and just being careful about that. But I wanted to also say that elements of this talk brought forward some feelings of grief and anger about the echoes of those original shifts away from the matrilineal cultures, and how heavy it feels right now. And I always appreciate an invitation back into our masculine and feminine selves and our most embodied and powerful intuitive selves. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. And thank you for bringing that up about the dark or the Black or whatever. That's such a sensitive issue right now. We have to be really mindful. Thank you. Yeah. On the Jung Platform, I've done two courses. One's The Power of the Feminine Erotic Soul, and the other one is The Heroine's Journey. So I really talk about this whole history and the feminine. Would anybody else like to share anything? Rick, you want to speak?
Yes. Since we're close to the end, I just wanted to remind everyone that there will not be a lecture in the month of April, but that the lecture will be at the end of this month. And that will be on March the 25th. And that will be with Penny Tarasuk. And please join us then. And I also just want to thank you, Erica. This was an amazing presentation. It just profoundly stirred up a lot of interesting things to think about at that access point, not only between body and soul, but all the twins of life and the transcendent. And this was really an orienting talk to that place of transcendence. So thank you. Erica, are you there? You might be muted.
Sorry, my cats are knocking on my bedroom door to get out, so I'm trying to keep the noise down. Thank you for coming. This was a wonderful to present to you, and I've been working on this material since 1975. So in my own personal and professional journey, so it's very important to me, this kind of material, and I really hope that Ed and Penny and we all give lectures for free because we're local and we believe in what we're doing and we want to give this to you guys. But when we bring people in, we want to give them an honorarium, and you're the ones that help us to do that. So we appreciate any kind of donation that you can give us. So with that in mind, it's hard to let go. It's hard to say goodbye, isn't it? I wish we were at Seeley Hall where we could see each other and we could hug each other, but we aren't. Maybe next year. Okay, so thank you for coming.
Thank you, Erica. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Thank you, Erica.
That was
Thank you
great.
for the grounding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.